If you haven't seen my video on the smaller sibling of this honestly fantastic gaming laptop from ASUS, chances are you're looking for something a little bit bigger. The good news is that the ASUS ROG Zephyrus G16 takes all of those quality of life upgrades that made the G14 one of my favorites and quite literally turns things up a notch. But that's the thing. For me, I normally go for 14-inch laptops because I value portability. And yet, with a sleeker and lighter design that is decidedly less gamery than before, does this 16-inch model of this laptop make me a believer in larger notebooks? Well, let's talk about that because it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? Here are my thoughts on the ASUS ROG Zephyrus G16. Okay, a lot of what makes this laptop tick is already covered, kind of, in my video on the smaller G14. I'll do my best to reiterate the more important bits of that video without retreading too much ground, but the link to the other video is appearing above and is found in the links below. I also have a sponsor for this video, and it's my friends over at Newegg, so why don't we go ahead and do that real quick before we dive into this laptop. Oh man!
What happened?
It's these eggs, they're old. Gosh, I was really hoping they would last longer.
I'm pretty sure I bought some new ones. They should be back there.
Oh, there they are. I can't believe I didn't see them because there's actually a ton of Newegg in here.
Yeah, see? Plenty of Newegg. Like all of the deals at Newegg's April Fool's sale.
There are a ton of deals, like on the PlayStation Pulse Explore earbuds that you just saw me take out of the fridge. These gaming earbuds are made specifically for the PS5, but can be connected to PCs and other peripherals, and one of the best parts is that you can actually listen to things simultaneously from your PC or PS5 and from your smartphone. So if you have stuff playing in the background all the time, this is a great way to do it. And if you've been itching to get into the world of virtual reality, you can get the MetaQuest 2 at a deep discount. You're definitely going to want to check this one out. This entire set gives you access to a world of virtual reality experiences via high-resolution displays, 3D positional audio, and of course the hand tracking in the controllers. By now there are so many titles and experiences available in VR that this could be a great way to start. Speaking of things that are cool, you can also get a deal on the EcoFlow Wave 2, and this one comes with an extra battery. Especially for the hot summer months coming up, you might want to have cooling like this that you can take pretty much anywhere. You can get up to 8 hours of comfortable, cooler climates with 4 different ways to charge the EcoFlow Wave 2. Yep, plenty of Newegg to check out.
Yep, make sure you check the links in the description down below so you can see all of the deals happening at Newegg's April Fool's sale happening right now. And thanks again to Newegg for sponsoring this video. Now, would you get your head out of there?
Sleek and with a slash. That is the design of the new Zephyrus G16 in a nutshell. Compared to previous versions of the G laptops, and actually the Zephyrus M16 that this laptop often gets considered alongside, this G16 is thinner with less hard angles, giving it a smoother look all around. The I/O is actually a bit of a step up from the G14, especially considering that one of the USB-C ports also supports Thunderbolt, which does make this a good choice for anyone that wants this laptop to moonlight as a desktop replacement. There's also a full SD card slot here, compared to the G14 where the micro SD card would actually go flush into the body of it. This one makes the SD card still stick out. So maybe it's not quite like a SD card you could just throw in there and keep there as a place to store your games. Now because of that I/O, I have used the G16 as a bit of a desktop replacement pretty often, despite the ideal need to still have the included fast charging brick also connected for max power and charging and for battery health while under heavy load like gaming. I still wish Thunderbolt was on the other laptop on the G14, but you win some and you lose some. And that's how some people might feel when talking about the new slash design here. Instead of the Matrix Light design from the G16 and the M16 of last year and from years before that, there's now just a simple line diagonally down the middle of the cover here that throws simple white lights in a number of different patterns that you can customize in the Armory Crate app. The LED strip can provide some contextual effects like sound syncing and pulsing to show that the laptop is asleep, but ultimately it's a step back in terms of customization. Now mind you, I don't mean a step back in terms of like it's a bad thing, it's just that there's a little bit more of a minimalist design here compared to before, which is really the story of the new G16 outer design as a whole. Things really open up when you open up the laptop. Now as you just saw, one-handed opening of the notebook is easy enough, though there is a little bit of screen wobble in both the G16 and G14. I did not mention this in the G14 video because it honestly didn't really bother me, and I was opening it a bunch to use the laptop in cafes and on my office couch. And while it doesn't bother me, I am making sure to mention it here because some people were asking about it in the comments of the previous video. A tighter hinge, a stronger hinge would be appreciated no matter what, so just take this information for what you will. However, massive points are still given for how great the display is. We're seeing OLED pop up in more and more laptops, and I'm seriously here for it. Especially since ASUS worked with Nvidia and Samsung to create an OLED display that pumps out 240Hz refresh rate, is HDR enabled, and supports Nvidia G-Sync altogether. Basically, any form of gameplay and media viewing should look and move beautifully on here, and it really does. Now, gaming performance on here is as expected, considering I have the RTX 4070 on here, but the gorgeous display at 16 inches actually made me opt for what could be considered less intensive titles, simply because I knew the animation and the color would simply shine through. And because of how large the display is, I could actually just plug in and sit back and comfortably enjoy. Seriously, the OLED display is just one of the best things that ASUS could have added in to update the G16 experience, and I gotta give them extra credit for putting in the extra effort with its inherent features. The same goes for the sound experience, since the speakers to the sides of the keyboard deck here blast out some of the best sound I've ever heard on a Windows laptop. I said this about the G14 as well, and I think it hits even more on that smaller laptop because you don't necessarily expect that level of sound to come out of that size of laptop, but really it's the same overall super positive experience here on the G16. And putting it all together with the OLED panel, I would be perfectly fine watching YouTube for hours and even full movies on here. Every aspect to that experience is just high quality. Now, as far as the keyboard and the touchpad are concerned, they're about the same as I said in the G14 video. The keyboard is really nice to type on, even though I do feel like I have to exert just a little bit more effort on this keyboard than on other laptops, simply because these keys are really sturdy. There is, of course, backlighting in RGB here on the keyboard, which is always nice, and the touchpad is nice and large and glass. Admittedly, because I have been using this laptop as more of a desktop replacement, I haven't actually had to use the keyboard and touchpad a whole lot. Which brings me to the main crux of my thoughts here. As I said, the G16 takes everything that I loved about the G14, turns things up a notch, and makes for a fantastic standalone media and gaming machine that doesn't need much more than like a external mouse or controller to then enjoy all that it provides. But after a week of using this laptop right after using the G14, I already knew it may not totally be for me. Not only does it not fit in my current backpack, so I had to find a separate carrying method, I couldn't really see myself taking it out too often in places like cafes where I would take up a bunch of room on the already pretty small tables usually. Like I said, I'm all about portability, to the point where I even use a small Bluetooth keyboard with my smartphone in order to write my scripts. So I find myself torn when it comes to the G16 because literally every aspect of this experience, from the screen to the sound to the battery life to the performance, is bigger and thus better in every way. But it's only as enjoyable as how much I can actually take it out and about, and ultimately that hasn't been as much as I thought it would be. I know, I'm trying to defy the laws of physics here, I understand, because literally every part of this laptop that is bigger does mean better. The RTX 4070 in here has a higher TGP than the one in the G14, I've talked about the display and speakers a bunch by now, and the increased battery size definitely yields longer work and play in all aspects. That's especially true for general workflows where the 4070 is turned off in the eco mode and I'm using the Intel Core Ultra 7. The G16 does go Intel here, so that makes it different from the AMD powered CPU and integrated graphics of the Zephyrus G14. But as I said in previous laptop videos with these kinds of CPU configurations, I just have to say it's an exciting time for ultra portable notebooks, and that includes gaming notebooks as well. I was able to power some light video editing and plenty of gaming with the Intel Arc graphics here, with some losses in performance compared to the G14's Ryzen set admittedly. But that could be due to how fresh this new architecture still is. With some optimizations from both ends, Intel and everyone else, this could definitely improve, and the step forward now with the Core Ultra series chips is still commendable. Because where it really impressed me is with the general work. I scripted videos, browsed the internet and YouTube, and started planning out an itinerary for an upcoming trip to Japan all on a single charge in a full afternoon. We're hitting a stride in the CPU and integrated GPU spaces for notebooks, and I'm excited to try out way more of these moving forward. What this means for the G16 is basically the same as I said for the G14. When you're plugged in, you have a very powerful, sleek gaming machine. But then when you're on battery and you're unplugged, you get something akin to an ASUS ROG Ally, complete with fantastic visuals, great sound, a full deck, the larger battery, basically the entire experience just bumped up. I also found that the G16 doesn't get quite as hot as the G14 either, obviously because the cooling is a bit more spread out and more robust in this larger laptop. Since my version is with the RTX 4070, I get a third fan around here that replaces the vapor chamber that you get in laptops sporting the 4080 and 4090. So the laptop doesn't really scorch under load with the added space and cooling, which is basically what you get with a bigger frame. Also, I will admit that the G16, because of all of that extra space, does feel a little bit better as a laptop. The only real part of this whole equation that I get bummed out by is the RAM situation, which was the same with the G14. My configuration has the 16 gigabytes of RAM soldered on with no hopes of upgrading, and I get why that can be a choice, but then it's my choice to opt in for a more expensive model with more RAM so I can actually multitask the way that I usually do with video editing and browsing, with YouTube in the background and all of that, just to give you one example of why that could end up being a problem. But even with the little quibbles and the fact that a larger laptop still doesn't quite make total sense for me to bring everywhere, I can't deny the fact that the Zephyrus G16 is one of the best gaming laptops I've ever had the pleasure of using. It's almost got it all, and it gets extra points for appealing to way more than just hardcore gamers with its updated minimalist stylings and quality of life upgrades that should appeal to just about anyone. It does come at a pretty hefty price point, I have to admit, which means that the quality of life upgrades are going to be a huge choice and commitment for those of you who might already have the previous G16, the M16, or any recent 15 or 16-inch gaming laptop worth their salt. And with the Intel Core Ultra processors still kind of finding their footing in this portable space, you're also deciding to be a little bit of an early adopter. But all in all, this is a package that is hard to beat, much like it was for the G14 in the ultra portable category. You get great power on demand, and it's gorgeous inside and out. Maybe I personally wouldn't bring it everywhere, but everywhere I did bring it, I was definitely happy. And so, there you have it, the ASUS ROG Zephyrus G16. Let me know if you decided to go for the 16-inch laptop life with this new chapter in the Zephyrus G laptops, and tell me your thoughts in the comments downstairs. I want to give one last shout out to the sponsor of this video, Newegg. Make sure you check out the deals happening in their April Fool's sale happening right now via the links in the description and in the pinned comment below. From there though, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for kicking it with me again today to talk about this wonderful laptop. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and enjoy your tea, everybody.